Coming up on Unpacked.
Bulimia is a mental disorder.
The core of the eating disorder actually peaked when I started working.
What's different with food is you do need to eat. It's not something you can quit.
It's almost as if food was calling me by name.
My daughter, I could see, is getting skinnier and skinnier. When she passed away, she weighed 32 kilos.
Eating disorders can carry a lot of shame and are often quite misunderstood. Both of our guests are here to share their stories. Let's unpack. Monko is a 27-year-old young lady from Randfontein in Johannesburg. While in varsity, a childhood trauma resurfaced and manifested as bulimia, a potentially life-threatening eating disorder where people binge eat and then take drastic steps to get rid of the food. For Liza Jager, a mother of two from Centurion, she has experienced the extreme and fatal side of the disorder. Her late daughter, Claudia Hala, battled with bulimia for years until her passing in 2019. Having witnessed the struggles her daughter went through, she has since spoken out on social media to share her pain and advise others. This is part one of their stories. Let's unpack. Liza, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Morongoa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the both of you have experience with eating disorders, but very different experience. You actually suffered an eating disorder, and you very tragically lost your daughter, Claudia, to an eating disorder. Let me start with you. What was Claudia like?
Claudia was bubbly. She was really like she's a fragile child. From baby, she was bubbly. She was soft-hearted. She was a person that anyone can get along with. And she would cry easily, like her mom. So today will be like holding tears back. But she had that bubbly personality, but she had a lot of heartache in her. You know, wanted love and stuff from the outside world, but don't really got it.
From the time when she was a baby, when did you notice things about her that may have caused you concern with regards to how she feels about herself?
It would be like from baby, she was fine. Growing up, she was perfect. And then in grade 11, grade 10, she had this perfect body and stuff. And then I just started seeing, and then I found laxatives in a cupboard as well. And then I thought, is something wrong? Why would she use it? And I had a lot of questions, and I talked to her about it because we had a very good open relationship between me and my daughters. We were like, could talk to anything. And then she would just say, yeah, but it's sometimes when she eats, she's constipated or something and stuff. So I left it. It wasn't for me an issue then because she didn't lose weight.
So there's no part, even in hindsight, you know, after the fact that you noticed her making comments about herself that seemed off?
No, I haven't. I couldn't pick up anything. She hid the problem so well. Because it's totally, bulimia is a mental disorder. Very bad that you hide it. People can't see it. You can sit here with it and no one will notice that you've got that problem. So for her, she hid it from me and I couldn't see. And I just, after school, when she left school, she moved. I stayed in Cape Town and then she moved to Boksburg to a friend and stuff. And when she came and visit, I could see, but you're losing weight and stuff. And that was a problem for me. Even if I talked to her, nothing was wrong, Mom.
So at the time when she was in high school and you noticed things like laxatives and she gave you an explanation, you didn't probe further. It was just like, okay.
Yeah,
it was kind
I just left it, it's that.
Yes,
and stuff. So I didn't go and ask more and it didn't worry me at that stage because I thought it's normal.
So now she's visiting. She's out of school, so she's probably around 19, 20.
Yes.
And you've noticed weight loss. Now, for you, did the weight loss seem like she was underweight or it was just, oh, you've trimmed down a bit?
For me, she started And the weight, because she was 1.78. So she was a tall girl, yeah, with this dark green eyes, beautiful. And she weighed 55, 56. So that was a nice weight for me, I would say. And then she started climbing. She was a scale. She was on a scale the whole time, every day. And that started bothering me when she came and visit and asking, where's the scale? And then I see, but you start measuring. She started measuring her arms to see. And that's a thing that they also do to see how they lose weight. And then I started reading about bulimia.
So at the time, I mean, you're noticing weight loss, you're noticing her wanting to weigh herself and measure herself all the time. What made you think, let me go read about bulimia? Is it something that you noticed she was doing? Like, for instance, if she was sitting at the dinner table, was there something she was doing that you noticed?
You know, she was normal with that as well. She would eat a whole plate of food and even a second plate. But immediately after that, she would go to the bathroom. And then it made me question, why would you go directly after that? Then I first thought in the beginning she had anorexia. And I read it about that, but anorexia is different because anorexia you don't eat. Bulimia, you overeat yourself and go to the bathroom afterwards.
So basically it's a cycle of binge eating and then finding ways to purge.
As well, yes.
Via either vomiting or using laxatives and things like that. Yes.
And then I started reading. And how can I help her? To look at which points is standing out for me. And every time, but I was never fighting with her about it. I would tell her, please get help or anything, but I haven't got a problem. I'm eating. Can't you see I'm eating? But she thinks that we don't see or hear her going to the bathroom. She was hiding that. And I was looking, and I would always send her articles about it and say. And then in 2014, I realized she's losing more and more weight. It's getting now a big problem. And I said to her sister, one day we're going to stand in front of your sister's deathbed. In that time already. And I was...
Did she look sick?
She looked sick. Then she started, complaining and everything. But still not coming to the point that I have a problem.
Yes.
And then in 2017, she lost her father in a freak accident. And I was in Cape Town and stuff. And I said to her, I need to get to Centurion back at our offices to be close to them. And in that time, she lost so much weight. So boyfriend broke up with her and stuff. And that also made a big thing in her mind and stuff, that losing, get out of the house and everything. And then she lost her dad and she did a journal, how she felt and stuff. And I realized that she didn't want to live anymore. She lost total, she didn't want to go on. But she would eat small portions then. When I'm not with her, in front of me it would be big portions. And then I found the laxatives again and I asked her, please stop. So I found an article about what laxatives does to your body. And I said to a colleague, she's going to be upset with me sending this. But I sent her a nice email asking, please, read this article and see what it's doing to you.
Can you actually share with us what it is you found? Because I think especially laxatives fall under over-the-counter meds. Very few people actually open up a pamphlet and read everything. So what were the things that scared you?
Laxatives, keep on using it. It eats away your stomach on the inside. And I told her, you're not going to have stomach sides left if you keep on doing it. And being with laxatives, they think that, like you say, over the counter, you buy it at Spar, you buy it at Pick n Pay. It's the easiest way for people to get hold of it and drink that. So I really begged her and I said to her, read this article and see what it's doing to your body, because it's damaging your body in the inside. You don't realize that.
So I want you to pause for a second there. Is there, before I hear from you, if there's anything you relate to, because you're coming from a different perspective, maybe take us back to when you were younger and what your relationship in the household with food was like, and how was food treated when you were a kid at home?
So growing up, I lived with my aunt, right? And it was just the two of us. So food was normal. It was a normal black household. You eat 3 times a day. It wasn't a major thing. I think the changes would come in when I go visit my cousins at their houses, because they lived in a suburban area, and they were like, where you get there and you open the cupboard and it's full, and you're like, why do people have so much food? You know, it's only now when I look back that, oh no, it was toxic what I did, because when you'd get there, you'd eat everything. And then when you'd go back home, it was normal. But at home, it was normal. My aunt made breakfast, lunch. At the time, my childhood was somewhat very painful. There was a lot of things that were happening outside of home, but family related, that were very painful. And I think those things are also part of the reason why I ended up where I ended up, right, with the eating disorder.
Can you share anything that was specifically personal to you? I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be right for you to share somebody else's thing, but anything personal for you. For example, I mean, what were the circumstances that you were living with your aunt? Where were your parents? So that we can also paint a picture. You've already mentioned that it's not actually an eating disorder, it's a mental disorder, that maybe we can piece together where the triggers could have been in the journey of you growing up.
I think one thing I can share is my stepmother. So I was made to believe that my stepmother was my real mother. Until she passed on, then you learn to say, no, don't cry. You actually have another mother.
Wow.
You know, and she passes on when I'm 8, and my little brother is 1. So there's now this shock of, okay, who is this person that just passed on? And now, who is this other person that you guys are saying she still exists? How do I relate? You know, there were alcohol. There was a lot of alcohol abuse in the family, and yeah, such things that I remember when I was in grade 5, thinking to myself, this was grade 5. I remember just opening the cupboard that we had medication in, and I was like, I'm done. I'm taking everything that's here, and I'm done. I will not tell you till this day what happened to all those pills that I took out, but that is to show that I don't want to call it a mental illness, but it is. The mental illness started at a very, very young age. It's just that you only get to introspect when you're older.
To be able to understand what was going on.
Yes, what was happening. I think also another thing that shielded my eating disorder was the fact that my dad is a fitness junkie. So the first time I exercised, I was around 7, 8. So it was a thing that we did, you know. So I could hide my eating disorder behind the fact that, no, I exercise. I'm just a fit person, you know. So,
you know, while that happened at the age of 8, did the answers eventually get given to you that you were looking for, with regards to your mother, your stepmother?
Not really. You just learn that this person that passed on isn't your real mother. You have your real mother, and you move on. And another funny thing is, you then learn that at Home Affairs, you actually registered under the person that wasn't your real mother. But no one is actually giving you the details that, how come my own mother is not registered as my real mother at Home Affairs? So it was a lot of things that were happening that weren't explained. And living with my aunt. So my aunt left the house at like 5:30 in the morning to go to work, and she'd come back at like 5:30 in the evening. So you have a lot of time to yourself. You have a lot of time to think, and I've always been very introspective. So you have a lot of time to think about things and analyze, but you don't actually have anyone to ask these questions to. And growing up in a Black family, as a child, you're supposed to be just seen and not heard. So you can't ask, no, but I looked at this and this doesn't make sense, you know? So you just keep quiet with things.
So at the time of you living with aunt, where was dad? My
dad lived in another house, but my aunt and my dad were besties. Okay. So my dad was around. Like my dad was fully around. Every step of my life, my dad has been there.
Did you eventually meet your mom, your real mother,
yes.
your birth mother? Let me call it that.
I did. We eventually got really close in 2016, but I did meet her at some point. Over the years, I remember when I was in high school, I always used to count that. Oh, I've actually seen my mom 5 or 6 times. But yeah, I eventually met her, but later on.
Okay. So now you have, and it's interesting that you mentioned that thing of going to people's houses and there being an abundance, and you can now like really have access to anything and everything and going back to a normal life. Because sometimes people don't realize, and I'll use, let's say, being addicted, for example, that they are susceptible to certain things because they're not in front of them at the time. Until, for example, you start making money. Now suddenly you can afford alcohol or you can afford X, Y, and Z. Did you find that to be the case when you now got out of school and went to live on your own and were having a job?
Yeah, the core of the eating disorder actually peaked when I started working. In varsity, it was bad, but it wasn't like proper bad until I could afford to feed the drug and to feed the addiction.
I'm glad you used that word because I also think it's important for people, because people might be thinking it's just food. What's different with, and food addiction is its own thing as well. What's different with food is you do need to eat. It's not something you can quit and never do.
You can't go cold turkey on food.
So let's take a step back. You mentioned that, you know, the eating disorder, you were experiencing it in varsity. When did it start to manifest? And when did it click in your mind that like, what I'm doing is not normal, and what was it that you were doing?
So let me take you back to my first year, right? So when I got to first year in varsity, I said to myself, Morongoa, something is not right with you. You went through 1, 2, 3 in life, and you're still hurt, and you have all these toxic things that you're doing because of all of that, right? At this point, the eating disorder is not a thing. I'm just breaking down in class, like I'm randomly crying, like I'm not okay. So I started therapy from first year. When I got to, I was like, I'm on my own now. Nobody's watching me. I can fix myself. I can get healthy. So I go to therapy first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. No eating disorder. Then I started working. No, in my fourth year, I remember, so my roommate and I used to like cooking rice. And at night, I wouldn't be able to sleep knowing that the pot of rice is still full and it's sitting on the stove. So I'd make trips to the kitchen to grab like a handful and put it in my mouth and then chew it quickly and then go back to the bedroom.
Just the rice.
Just
nothing
the rice,
else.
Nothing else, you know. And I do that a lot. But at that time, you don't think anything is wrong. Then it became bread, where if I have bread in the house, I can't leave it alone until it's done. I have to make sure that I eat every bit of that loaf, you know, and then...
It doesn't matter whether it's dry or got something on it.
And that was my issue. I liked it dry. Whether it was rice, it was iputu, it was bread. If it was dry, the drier the better. I don't know if I was trying to choke myself to death, but, you know, the drier the better. Fine.
Were those moments, if I can just cut you, you say like you would get up unable to sleep to go and eat. Was that feeling an anxiety feeling, like you're not going to feel settled if you don't do this thing? Is that what it felt like?
Then I didn't think it was anxiety. Now knowing what I know that was anxiety. It was as if it was a panic moment. But then I just thought, I like this thing so much. I really enjoy it. You know, and you keep going back, I like this thing so much. 2017 happened. I started working. Before I started working, in the first month of the year, when I was still sitting at home and trying to find a job, all I could do and all I had to do was eating. And you'd find yourself like eating an entire box of cornflakes. And after
dry, no milk.
No, with milk.
With milk, yeah.
So I'd sit down, the milk is here, the box is here, and I'm just going, and I'm just going, and just keep adding, and you're going. You know, and then at the time, because I couldn't afford a lot of things, I'd buy a box of oats. Because I know if I have oats, this is very filling and I'm going to get a lot of it. Then I'd put butter in it, I'd put sugar in it, and just keep going and going and going. Jan was done, I found a job. And I found a job. I got to a point where it's almost as if food was calling me by name. I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope unless I ate certain things. So I remember I'd go to work, and when I go to work, I use public transport. So I'd go to the CBD, and I tell myself that today I'm not buying scones. I'm done with scones. And then I'd pass the lady that sells the scones, and I'd be like, I can't. And then I'd buy them, and I'd eat my scones, and then I'd go to work. When you get to work, people are saying, oh, I haven't had breakfast. You're like, oh, I also haven't eaten. You know, so we all go downstairs together, we chill, we have breakfast, then we go back to our office. While people are still working, I'd go back downstairs, go to the vending machine, get a piece of chocolate, get snacks, walk around the office while I'm eating that, so that I can get back to the office and say, what are we snacking on? As if I haven't snacked already.
So you'd start lying,
yes,
as well to people. So I'm curious, in all the times that you were having these binge moments, how did you feel after doing it? Was it like a sense of relief or a sense of guilt?
During the day, there was just this numbness about it, right? At night, it was guilt. At night, you can't sleep because you haven't binged. But after you binge, you can't sleep because now you feel terrible. So at the end of the day, I'm still going to stay up.
And were the binges causing you to gain weight that you now started to be like, I need to do something about it? Or you weren't gaining weight, but the feeling made you want to reverse and encourage you to purge? Is that something that you would eventually do?
So because I started working out when I was 6, at that time, I was still working out. And exercising is something that I really, really love, to a point where I actually went to school and studied it because I'm a personal trainer now.
Yeah.
So it's something that I really love, right? But now because you're a personal trainer, people expect a certain image from you. As much as I've never been bigger than this, but you feel out of shape because you're a personal trainer and people are just like, trainer is Nandi six-pack, you know? But I can't have a six-pack because I have this thing that I'm dealing with that you guys don't know about. So how do I get rid of it? Laxatives, green teas. There's this green teas that I used to drink where after you drink it and it's getting out of your system, it feels like it's even pulling something from your blood way. It hurts. But what else do I have? Because I can't vomit. Vomiting was something that I tried. And the reason why I say I tried vomiting, I'd go online and try and learn about it. How do you lose weight? How do anorexic people do it? How do bulimic people do it? You know, and they would give you tips that if you can't use your finger, use your teeth brush. If you can't use your teeth brush, use this. There's a lot of pages where there's young girls and young boys teaching each other how to make this thing worse.
So you were actually fully aware of eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. So you were able to search. Did you search things like thinspiration?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I had language for what I was going through. There's a picture I used to love where this girl was very skinny and you could see these bones. And I'd be like, one day I want to be like that. And some days I'd take that picture and put it as my profile picture so that when I want to eat, I'd just look at that and not eat. But I'd end up eating anyway.
And you probably, the feelings of I shouldn't be eating got you to be eating more. How do you feel listening to her explain the emotions she was going through while she was doing this?
It's very hard because now I try to figure out how did my daughter actually felt, what went through her mind. Because listening to her with her exercise and stuff, my daughter was crazy in kickboxing and in CrossFit. So that's a point that she can go and do what she wants to get rid of everything in her. But like she says, she didn't really lose the weight, where my daughter, I could see, is getting skinnier and skinnier. And she was, with Tor, when she passed away, she weighed 32 kilos. And that was for me to describe it, and it's very difficult. You see that if you go to a doctor's room and you see the skeleton, you can just put a thin piece of layer around, and that's how my daughter looked like.
In essence, you are saying she looked like skin and bones.
That's all she were. When she sat on the bed, etc., I could count her ribs and her bone, your ruggraat, jammer.
Your spine.
Spine
yes.
was standing this much out from the rest, and then the skin. And if you give her hacks and stuff, she would say, I know, because all you hack was just bones.
And I want to come back to, towards the end for her, because I think it's also important for us to really go through how the body starts deteriorating. In your case, so you started, checking out the thinspiration, trying to find ways using the laxatives. What was the emotional cycle that you were now going through? Because real life is still happening, but you're also facing this monster of a demon, of a whatever you want to call it, that you were going through.
Self-hate, lots and lots of self-hate. I don't know how to... Trauma. My trauma, there were so many things that even though I went to therapy, it was still bottled up inside. And they would bubble up, and then it goes quiet. And then, so I dealt with a lot of triggers, but I also dealt with a lot of well done, Mo. On days where you'd go 2 hours or 3 hours without binging, and you'd be like, you see, you can do it. And then my mind would be like, but why are you lying? You know you can't do this. You know in the next hour it's going down, and then it goes down again. So it was very high highs and very low lows.
Paint a picture for us of what your worst or lowest binging moment was. I mean, from what you described so far of snacking and having scones, some people might be watching thinking, we also do that.
Yeah.
So maybe paint a picture of what your low moments actually look like when you were binging, how much you would consume.
I'll take you to my last week of binging, where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. So at the time, like I said, I used public transport, right? And I'd go to work, and coming back home, it got so bad that I'd be scared to go home, because where my taxi dropped me off, I knew, Guti, there's a spaza shop around. And I didn't want to walk to that spaza shop and end up buying all these snacks, right? But in my mind, I wanted to get off at the complex so I can go to Pick n Pay and buy donuts. Donuts were a thing at the time, and a loaf of bread. So now you're in a taxi and you're scared to get off at your stop because there's a shop there, but your mind wants to go to Pick n Pay. So I tell myself that, no, you know what? Rather get off at your normal stop, buy the small snacks that you're going to buy, rather than getting off at Pick n Pay. But
I want to pause for a second, because what you're saying is so powerful. We don't think that a person having an eating disorder would have a fear of going home. Like, that's how much it consumes you. It's not something that you're only dealing with when you're eating. When you're not eating, you're thinking about eating. So I think it's so... Like, I'm listening to you saying that, I'm like, I cannot imagine how much this must have just consumed your life. So then what happened after that?
So now I'm in a taxi, and I'm like, I'm going to end up walking to Pick n Pay anyway. Might as well just get off there. So you go there and you get off, you buy whatever you want to buy, and I'd walk home. So now in that week, what started happening is that, I don't know on which day I decided, no, I don't want to cook today, so I'm just going to order a box of pizza. I ordered a box of pizza, and I think that was me falling into the rabbit hole. Because now already your mind is hurt, already your mind is damaged. Now you're adding this thing that's very high in calories, very high in things that are already addictive when you're addicted. And I ordered the box of pizza that day, and I ate the entire thing. Now that became the drug of choice. That entire week, I literally mean that entire week, when I get home, it was the same cycle. Get home, get off, get into Pick n Pay, buy the donuts, buy the bread, walk home. When you get home, have this thing telling you that you won't be able to sleep until you order the box of pizza. You're looking at the time, you're like, okay, they're going to close. I need to order now, but don't order. Maybe wait for them to close. Now that whole thing is happening for a few seconds. Then you end up calling them. I order the pizza, and it would arrive. And I'd always buy the triple decker, and I'm alone. And I already have this bread. I already have these donuts. I already have these snacks that I went to go buy at the tuck shop. And I'm sitting there with all of these things, and I convinced myself that as long as I eat half of this pizza, then I'm okay. Then I'd eat half of the box, eat everything else, take the entire box and put it in the fridge. Now I'm stuffed. Now I hate myself. But I also hate myself more for the fact that I didn't complete that box of pizza. So you can't get it right staying away from the pizza, but you also can't get it right.
Because it can't stay there without you eating
it.
Yeah.
So then you wake up in the middle of the night, you get it as stuffed as you are, and you eat the rest of it. And tomorrow morning, you're just like, okay, I need a cup of green tea. I need to go run. And it's the same cycle. It happened the entire week, to a point where before I picked up that call to call the pizza place, I'd be shaking because I'd be like, this thing is wrong, but I can't stop it. I don't know how to stop it. And I'm scared to even try and be like, okay, today I'm not doing this because I don't know what's going to happen when they close and now I don't have this thing. What's going to become of me? So rather do what I know. I know if I do this, I know where it's going to end up. If I don't make that call, I don't know what's going to happen to me at night. So rather stick to that.
Next time on Unpacked.
I'd struggle to breathe and I'd be like, Morongoa, you are going to die.
And she was undressing, getting ready, and I looked at that figure and I said, God, what's happening to my child?
I was killing my body and I was killing myself, and I could have died from that.
And we couldn't say bye to each other. We hugged and kissed, hugged and kissed. That's the last time I saw her.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.